Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
And today we're going to tell you how we felt about the new Back to the Future documentary, Back in Time. This just came up on Netflix about a week ago, and Brandon and I already knew about this, and I was going to buy a copy, and was really surprised that it went up on Netflix. And
I'm probably still going to buy a copy.
I probably will too.
Having
seen it now, yeah.
I cannot... Is that the thing that comes with the new set?
No.
That's the one on the restoration of the Delorean, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
I'm going to get it all.
There's a new featurette or two on that, and of course, as we keep talking about, the enemy of the series is on there, and Brandon and I are planning on doing a video on that down the road. And by the way, that's out already. That set.
Came out on the 21st, I believe, on Back to the Future Day.
It did come out on Back to the Future Day.
My paycheck did not come out on Back to the Future Day,
Brandon, what I thought was so cool about Back to the Future Day, this is a really super minor thing, but 21st, Back to the Future Day, what are the odds it would be on a Wednesday? They were able to release Back to the Future number 1, the new comic book, on a Wednesday, so they could get it out on the 21st. It's so cool. It came out on a Wednesday. Well, I guess the odds are 1 in 7. Anyway, so now we're going to tell you a little bit about what we thought of this new documentary. It interviews a lot of major people involved with Back to the Future, of course. 30 years later, it's all very recent, not old interviews at all, and it's mostly about cultural impact, like you would probably expect. There's a lot of making of stuff, a lot of stories, frankly, that I had heard before, but a lot of new stuff that I didn't know either. And I was kind of glad, Brandon, that it focused as much on the fandom and the cultural impact side as it did, because those were the sections where things were able to surprise me more. I mean, there were certainly
a number of things going on Back to the Future related
stuff that I
fan-oriented.
Didn't even know about.
Yeah,
but also like technological advancements. Because I mean, like, there's a whole section on new hoverboard technology, and I had heard about that, but didn't know just what exactly they had been doing with that, and that was more extensive than I expected to be. And stuff like that I thought was really super cool. But like I said, there's like kind of a making of section filtered, and then sprinkled in that is also some fan stuff, and then there's like a whole fan section, and then sprinkled in that there's some more making of stuff. So anyway, that's pretty much what it is. And
how they did it.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And now we'll tell you what how we felt about it, what we thought of it. Brandon, how did you feel about this documentary, sir?
Well, this documentary made me feel like that's the power of love for this movie.
I like your Delorean.
Well, thank you very much. That's the better Delorean I've ever driven.
Brandon's like, this is the closest to getting to drive a Delorean I'm ever going to get.
This is an approximation of the vehicle that I saw in 1985. If you know the whereabouts in time of this vehicle, I haven't seen one of those in 30 years.
That is, Brandon, I'm pretty sure that was the year you were born.
No, I was born in 86.
Oh, okay, all right. So you're born a year after.
A year later. I'm 29.
I was born a year before that movie.
People now know my age. I just inadvertently threw that. No, that's cool.
That's all right. Okay, look, it wasn't my fault.
I look like Strickland, right? Maybe.
Yeah. Just don't call me a slacker.
The power of love for this movie, I really do mean that. You know, riffing off the song, they're pulling from the song.
So do you think that it was pretty good?
Well, it just shows, okay, one, you can't have a documentary like this without a lot of love for the source material.
Right.
Also, the love of the movie is what creates the source material. So it's really full swing on this, and I dug it because of the love used to create this. And the love I have for the movie, it really spoke to me on that level. And I got to see some things that I'd never seen before, and stuff I'd heard about but never had any context for, really came together. It felt like a really well-rounded documentary to me. Basically, but it did focus a lot on the first one, but it did talk about elements from all three.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It focused mostly on the first one. But there was still more stuff about the second one than there was about the third one. It kind of had
the third film was barely touched.
It was barely touched. Christopher Lloyd mentioned it almost as like a token mention.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the first half of it, there's a lot of like making of stuff and how it got off the ground in the first place, and it's very.
Oh yeah, I love the service to that.
Extensive section on kind of like I've seen in a lot of Star Trek documentaries, trying to really hone in on how likely it would have been for this movie to have never happened in the first place.
Right. And
what would the world look like without it?
People have heard the stories. It's kind of, as they say for another thing in this documentary, it's kind of mythic. It's folklore type stuff. You've heard the stories that, they shopped it around, nobody wanted it, Disney wouldn't take it, they thought the opposite of everybody else. Well, this is Bob Gale, Robert Zemeckis, Alan Silvestri, the head of Columbia Pictures, who was later the head of Universal. They're talking about, yeah, no, this happened. This is how it happened, and this was my part in this. Steven Spielberg.
And a lot more details about it than I realized. I had forgotten, and there were bits that I knew about for it, because of course, I've combed all of the special features from the old DVDs, and so had heard some of that stuff, but I completely forgot about stuff like the reason that Zemeckis made Sword of the Stone. Not Sword of the Stone. What is it? Romancing the Stone.
Romancing the Stone.
Without Steven Spielberg was because he was trying to carve out a name for himself.
Prove himself, yeah.
And then he went back to him because everybody else didn't believe in the project until suddenly he was a success story, and he calls him Fairweather Friends. And I forgot about all that. So
Spielberg supported him from the beginning.
Yeah, some of it for me was just kind of a nice refresher, and I guess I could always just go back to all those other featurettes and get all that again. But like inside of this kind of more this kind of concise but thorough everything Back to the Future experience, it was kind of nice to be reminded of all that stuff.
Well, this documentary, as much as it was about the making of the design of the car, who was involved. This was even more so about the aura surrounding the movie, how it makes you feel, and the iconography from this movie.
Right.
And that said a lot, too, because we've seen a lot of things about the movie itself. This was almost more about the fandom than anything else in a lot of ways, and the people that learned from this or saw it when they were little and use it today, like Dan Harmon, the creator of Rick and Morty, one of my personal favorite cartoons ever, loved the heck out of it. He's on there a lot. He talks about it. It's an obvious influence, of course, but this one really did speak to me. I love it. I'm gonna get a hard copy of it.
Yeah, something I was gonna say, based on the beginning of what you just said, and I don't know. Go ahead and flip your sign, I guess.
Oh,
which is obligatory, but
it comes as no surprise.
Right.
I'm feeling it.
What I was gonna say is, I like that, piggybacking off what you were talking about, that we're focused a lot in this thing about the future post Back to the Future. It's just like that's a really kind of appropriate thing to do. I feel like the documentary could have maybe even hit that notion home harder and made that kind of the thing that the glue that holds the whole thing together. I did feel like, and I'll flip my sign in a second. I did feel like it was a little bit, especially at the beginning, kind of all over the place. Like it was having a hard time deciding where its focus was and what its organization was going to be. And I'll talk about that a little bit more extensively in a second. But that's an idea that is sort of there, but I don't think that it's that it's like real clear in the minds of the documentary makers, of the filmmakers, and I wish that it was, because this idea that we're in 2015, obviously obligatory. We got to get this movie out for this year. They put it. I think they probably did put it on Netflix on the 21st. I think that probably happened, but I don't remember what day it showed up. But like this idea that you get 30 years after Back to the Future, and what does the world look like impacted by the movies in the year that we went to the future in that movie. I kind of wish that was more at the forefront, because that's a really cool idea, and that's kind of what we did. And again, maybe kind of obvious, but I feel like the organization would have come together better if that had been the driving force.
It may have been a more cohesive, a more driven a documentary.
And I mean, I don't mind that there's not like a huge narrative thrust for this thing. That it's mostly like interviews, and then we go to some cool places that's related to Back to the Future and see what people are doing with it. 30 years later. That's fine with me. I didn't need this to tell a story really beyond just the story of the making of the thing. That's okay. The thing that bugged me more is, and I guess I'll just throw this out now. The thing that bugged me was that there are bits where we go into weird tantrums, or not tantrums, but like tangents, where just people are just kicking and screaming in this movie.
Yeah, it's Biff getting covered in manure, that kind of a tantrum.
We go into these tangents in this thing where it's like, because we're, you mentioned the Rick and Morty guy. This is my big example for this. Like he's been on screen a lot. By the time they finally start actually talking about him, so it's like 15 minutes in, we're talking about some completely unrelated thing. He is weighing in on this topic, and then all of a sudden. And then here's some stuff about Rick and Morty. It was completely random out of nowhere.
That was, and there
are a couple places in the thing that do that. Also, the movie is not very good at providing context for people that don't know what current things that have been influenced by Back to the Future are. If you don't know what Rick and Morty is, and I only know about it tangentially, like. From you told me about it. Like if you're just watching this movie and you've never heard of that, you can kind of infer, okay, it looks like a cartoon that's about like a kid and a scientist, but like that's it. Like, why are we hearing about this right now? There's nothing connecting that together with.
Right, that doesn't come until a little bit later, and he barely mentions it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I just don't know why we're suddenly talking about his show right when we're talking about it. And then there's a thing at the end, and maybe you can help me with this. Maybe you know about this. There's an entire, during the hoverboard section, really extensive section on the hoverboard,
right.
Which I liked a lot. But you get into the hoverboard section, and there's suddenly this thing about, like, some video or something about a kid like making or getting to ride a real hoverboard. I don't know what that is.
That okay.
Like, they don't tell you what that is. They just show you the making of it. I don't know what it is.
For whatever reason, they put that in a documentary. I think that they didn't do a good job of explaining this at all, but that is the Goldbergs. They didn't even try. Okay. That is the Goldbergs. It's a show on TV. I believe it's ABC.
Wait, that was part of a TV show? They didn't even tell you what show it was from.
They made a quick mention of it, but they didn't. It just showed up there talking about the creator of the show, the Goldbergs.
Yeah, but they don't tell you that that's what you're looking at.
Right.
I mean, you see creators of things throughout this entire
That's a problem,
thing.
but
How would I know that?
The reason that they included it is because they want to show how ingrained Back to the Future still is in the...
Obviously. Right. I don't mind that it's there. Tell me what the heck it is.
No, I agree with you. I'm right there with you. Yeah. I'm absolutely right there with you.
Yeah, no, but I mean, yes, I get why it's about hoverboards. I get it. But and it's obviously a Back to the Future thing. But I don't but like they just didn't tell me what it was.
They didn't explain it. No, and that is a problem throughout the documentary. They don't explain up front who we're listening to, why they're saying what they're saying, where they're coming from.
They're fine with who we're listening to. I mean, like the cards of like who people are, not intrusive. They don't show it to you too often. That's not obnoxious. That's not a problem. It's just, and this is not a problem more than 3 or 4 times, but when it happens, it really takes me out because I have to sit here and for sometimes several minutes.
Right.
Watch the documentary telling me about a thing that I don't even know what I'm looking at.
You didn't know what you're looking at.
Yeah, sure.
Can I say one thing really quick is I did appreciate the section on the hoverboards, but I wish that they would stop, like, the hoverboards have been big news lately, but they're inspired, they're influenced by Back to the Future, but they're still not what like true diehard fans are looking for. They're cool, I love the technology, but they're just not that.
It's weird because the documentary doesn't talk about how they only work on a particular surface.
Right, they show it, but they never explain it, once again.
And I feel like maybe this isn't intentional, but sometimes it feels like stuff like that is left out a little bit to try to make this like cool future we're living in that has been inspired by Back to the Future to look cooler than it is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or to make Back to the Future look more relevant than it is. And I don't mean that it's not. And I don't mean that the hoverboard thing wasn't obviously inspired by that. I'm just saying that like to leave out major information like these things don't work anything like as well or even work like those things do.
A couple of the inserts like that did feel like they came off almost as ads for other things.
That's a great point.
Which I didn't care for, but in the end, that was less of a concern for me, just because I dig the property so much.
We're kind of selling stuff.
A little bit, especially with the Hendo. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I understand the stuff about the Michael J. the Fox Foundation. I dug that.
Yeah, that didn't feel intrusive to me at all.
That didn't feel intrusive either.
Let me flip my sign and we'll talk about more of those details. Yeah. And I've already talked about my negatives, so I'll talk some positives here. But this movie made me feel like starting a Back to the Future collection, so I guess it made me feel jealous, I guess, is how it made me feel. Yeah. I enjoyed it a lot. And I learned a lot. Like I said, there were definitely some stories that I had heard before. One of the things that I enjoyed the most was Michael J. Fox's interview, and I wish I could see that whole interview because all the way through it, he is still just one of the funniest people on the planet.
Yes, he is.
Every time he's on screen, he says something that just kills me, and like there are even sections where he's talking about something like kind of serious. And then he ends up... He
cracks a joke.
And then there's a joke at the end, and it's almost like Michael J. Fox is deciding, like, in the moment, where his part of the interview is going to be edited to start and edited to finish. Like, it really feels like that. Absolutely fantastic.
You know what, I speaking of Michael J. Fox, what I really dig about him is the fact that, you know, he's been through the years, he's been honest with people about his role in the movie and what it meant to him and what he knew about certain technologies in the movie. He was along for the ride as an actor, and I get that, but I love the fact that he's still willing to talk about it, still willing to tell you exactly his place in the whole set and tell you how he felt about it.
It's a really, really thorough movie. I mean, I like just how much stuff we're covering. You know, you would feel like something was missing if we didn't talk about the Eric Stoltz thing. And once again, there are a couple little tidbits here and there about that I wasn't aware of. It's interesting to see Bob Gale talk about. I think it was Gale talk about it because he looked like it still to this day kind of hurts him to talk about it.
It hurts him what he had to do.
What he had to do. It's like that's like really really sad. And even to hear Michael J. Fox talk about it and be like, I can't imagine what it would be like to be on a project that long and then get booted.
That was one of the most telling things is when he's talking about that. He's like, I wouldn't have been able to handle that. Like 6 weeks into production, that was huge back then.
Yeah.
It's huge today, but it was huge back then, and they spent so much money to refilm things.
Yeah, and ended his career. I mean, nobody knows who that is now.
Pretty much. But the other interesting thing there is that... I'm going to lose my train of thought here for a second. But the reactionary shots. Some of the reactionary shots to stuff that Michael J. Fox does in the movie are actually reactions that were filmed earlier from Stoltz. Right. And I kind of knew this, but I never realized what extent this was. Right. It's actually a fairly large first portion of the movie.
Yeah, they had already shot quite a bit. I mean, it reminds me, this is a totally different situation, but it reminds me slightly of the, like, Richard Donner, Richard Lester situation between Superman 1 and Superman 2, where Donner had already shot a lot of stuff, and then he got booted. The producers didn't like what he was doing, and, they didn't get along with him, and so he ended up leaving, and Lester came in, and Lester had to, like, use a lot of his shots and then add his own. And so there have been over the years movies that are kind of cobbled together like this, and it's astounding when that happens and it works. I guess this is a situation where it's a little better because it's not like we lost the creative driving force of the movie. It was just an element of it. So we're still using the same sets of the same people setting the shots up. Why would you have to reshoot? And we're not talking just reaction shots. We're talking like entire bits of dialogue where a person is just. But I mean. Where a person is just talking at the camera, as long as that person's not in the shot. I mean, consider how often movies will like shoot in different locations, and you'll have sometimes just by necessity of practicality because of like travel times and things like that, where you'll have a person in one scene who they shot in, say, Vancouver, and somebody they shot in California, and they shoot the two sides of it and they cobble it together.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what what this kind of thing was. But like I said, I really enjoyed how thorough it is, and how much of the fan stuff it gets, and sometimes that can be kind of irritating. You look at something like Trekkies, where it's made more of for like a joke, and I mean I like that movie, but where it's just kind of look at these crazy fans, and this didn't feel so much like these people are bananas as it did as it did just like here are some of the neatest projects we were able to find that these people that people that love Back to the Future were working on. And then you have, I mean, again, Michael J. Fox, he talks about how some of these people that devote some of their time to a fandom for a 30-year-old movie, that they're kind of crazy, but he says they're the right kind of crazy. And I think that's I don't know. I like the way the movie, played that. I think that was all okay. It wasn't making fun of anybody, I guess is what
that's right. And a couple of things to that note is they do spend a fair bit amount of time on fans of DeLoreans and the people who have recreated time machines, and they call them time machine owners.
I expected, but boy, quite a long section.
The coolest fan guy that we saw was the only private citizen to own one of the filming DeLoreans.
Right.
And he owns the one from number 3. He also owns the 4x4 that Marty drove in 2 and 3.
Right.
And he has the Libyan van, and that was just so cool. That was freaking awesome. And he's another recreated DeLorean of the first of the A-type DeLorean. It was really neat to see all the fans, but then look at the actors that they got for this thing too. We've been talking a lot about Michael J. Fox, but they had the guy who played Mayor Goldie Wilson. They had the guy who played Mr. Strickland. They had a whole bunch of people.
And it was kind of neat to see some of these kind of more minor character actors that you hadn't seen in a long time, who are still around and coming back to talk about this.
Claudia Wells.
I will say though there were a couple people that I was surprised weren't interviewed, especially the guy who played Biff. I don't know where he was.
Tom Wilson.
Tom Wilson should have been there.
Noticeably absent, and I'm not surprised, is Crispin Glover.
Although this far out, I could have seen him agreeing to it.
I would hope
at this point.
But I have heard there's still bad blood there.
Yeah, but he wouldn't have had to be in the same room with anybody that worked on it.
Well, it's true. He could have talked about his experience overall.
He could have just talked by himself. I mean, it's not like Galen Zemeckis were in the same room together.
No,
I'm not saying they don't get along. I'm just saying, like
Right, as far as I know, they're still buddies.
He didn't have to be in the room with anybody. But I don't know. It's just considering the fact that he was good humored enough to be in Hot Tub Time Machine just because he had been in a time travel movie. I could have sort of seen it, but I'm not surprised we didn't see him. Tom Wilson though,
Tom Wilson, I am really surprised, and now you've got me curious because I didn't realize that they didn't have him there.
Because you've got people that who's like what they are remembered for is primarily Back to the Future. Tom Wilson is that way.
He is definitely that way, and that's a good question. Too bad, because I know he actually talks about his Back to the Future stuff quite a lot.
Oh yeah. And one of the things, and he might have just been busy. He's a voiceover actor and stuff, and he might have just been.
He was a little biffy.
But the thing, because I was also kind of surprised that he wasn't originally in the voice cast for the Telltale game, and then in the re-release that they just did. Which I hadn't bought that yet, so I'm going to get the re-release. And the re-release they did, they actually brought him in and had him dub over all the old Biff lines. But he wasn't in it initially. I don't know why. It just doesn't seem like he'd be busy then. Just doesn't seem like he'd be that hard to get, you know? But anyway, whatever. Real quick, I also wanted to speak to the what we were talking about earlier with the fact that Back to the Future 2 and 3, the making of stuff with those is kind of interspersed a little bit here and there, but they're not focused on real hard. I thought it was kind of it was something of an odd choice, and maybe it's just a matter of time. That the only time that those movies that anything about the making of those is talked about is in relation to something else they're talking about, and usually technical stuff. So like we get a little bit about how hard the hoverboard scenes were to shoot, because we're talking about hoverboards, and we get a little bit about Back to the Future 3 when we're talking about that car, but that's about it. And I think, I mean, maybe they front loaded it with kind of too much of the how did this thing get started in the first place with stories we'd heard before, but then I don't want to begrudge it that too much, because there were a lot of details that I hadn't heard before, and also you don't want to assume that everybody that's going to watch this movie are people that have watched the featurettes on the other discs. Like a lot of people that would think to watch this documentary probably love these movies enough that they've already done that kind of research and looked into as much of the stuff that they can look into, but you're going to get casual people just flipping around Netflix going, oh, that looks interesting, and they should get to hear those stories too.
I would have loved to hear the same type of stories that we got to hear about number 1, about number 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Especially, I want to know more about the situation where they filmed them back to back, pretty much. That is something that interests me. That's something I don't know a lot about in this franchise.
That's a really good point. And then you had stuff like, curiously, like the second actor who played George McFly, who did the older version, talking about what it was like to film upside down. And I don't even remember what the context was for getting him to talk about that. It was just, all I'm saying is every now and again, and this is kind of again my big complaint about the movie. The organization gets a little bit muddled, where every now and again it feels like, and now we're talking about this because we had to throw it in there someplace. But I don't know. That's my big complaint, is just organization. But overall, I enjoyed it quite a bit. Obviously, I'm flipping my sign green as well. I recommend people see it. We talked about a lot of details, so.
But there's still plenty in this. This is packed with stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely quite a lot. Well, anyway, everybody, thanks as always for watching. We sure appreciate it, and we will see you again next time for some more new movie reviews, and also we'll have plenty of other videos for you in the near future. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
Thanks for watching.